I was going to cite, hey, the stat of the day was teed up by Steve and delivered by you, Jonathan Cooper, with 6.5 career sacks. I think you may need to look into doing this for a living.
Well, I do like to look up players who have been underachieved in their time and have only been asked about how much they've underachieved, like poor Jonathan Cooper has done. So some of those numbers stick in my mind when he has to be asked about it all the time. And he came back to show everybody what he could do, and then he didn't get a chance to do it. So that's another sad story about all of this.
I'm not downgrading him as a player at all. I think he plays his role very well, and he's a platoon player. Yeah, he'd be a starter if he's healthy. And when he did play against Michigan, he had a sack and helped them win that game. So, it was all proven on that one day that he is a legitimate player, no doubt about it. I just think that he still has some things he needs to show the NFL to become, is he going to make a 52-man roster? That's a tough question for me right now. I don't know. I mean, when you see the guys who we know as great college players who struggle to make a mark in the NFL, it's not a surprise how difficult it is. Obviously, they're the best of the best. But, it's interesting, no doubt.
And when people do cite Jonathan Cooper's stats like I do and like we have, I like to remind people he was starting in 2018 ahead of Chase Young. It was Nick Bosa and it was Jonathan Cooper. Chase Young rotated in with those guys.
Yeah, Chase Young, he took off once Bosa got injured, and that's when he got his opportunity to play heavy reps after Bosa was injured.
2 quick points out of me, and then we're done. If we play a spring season and the first game is the first week of February, I'm just throwing out a time. I'm now hearing that would be backed up possibly to January. Spring football in Madison, Wisconsin, Minneapolis, Minnesota, anywhere in the Big Ten, but certainly those 2 spots, first and foremost. My goodness.
No, I think you got to put them in domes. You go around the footprint. There's St. Louis, there's Minneapolis, there's Detroit, there's Indianapolis. You have pods. You play a game at noon. You play a game at 7:30, something like that. You've got 4 teams at each site. Do it however you want. You start, and Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated, I think, is using Ryan Day's plan. First game is January 1st, the first week of January. Last regular season game is the last week of February. And your postseason is the first week or 2 of March. And then you've got 4.5 months before they go back to camp. And is that enough time to allow them to rest and then play a full fall season? That's up to the strength coaches. I would love to hear Mickey Marotti's thoughts on that, Ohio State strength coach. Would he toe the line of, yes, we can do it? I think those are the questions that have to be answered. The sooner you play, the better chance you have of not interfering with the real season. Although if everybody else gets canceled, I think the winter season is going to be a real season because everybody's going to be playing it and everybody's going to want some sort of a national title. You start it sooner, you end it sooner, and then you get refocused on the fall season. But before any of that happens, the lawyers have to allow it.
Yeah. I just pulled this up here, the 2021 schedule for OSU. If we're inclined to look that far ahead, they're supposed to open on a Thursday night at Minnesota like they were supposed to open in the revised schedule at Illinois this year. September 2nd, I think, is at Minnesota. They're supposed to play Oregon, Tulsa, and Akron at home. I think the Oregon thing would go on. My way of thinking on how they make that right is to come back later in the decade in a year where they need a road non-conference game and just slip Oregon in there as the payback for that. But, who knows? Maybe they play them in the spring at Oregon if that's possible. I saw something where the UCLA coaches that embattled Chip Kelly. Is he the one there at UCLA? My Kellys are always tough for me to remember.
7-17.
Yeah, 7-17. Lost to Cincinnati. Chip Kelly. He lost to him twice. Yeah, home and away. somebody said they were just now able to get into their offices or something because of COVID-19 restrictions or whatever. So while we think, okay, Ohio State has been working out for a couple months or whatever, it sounds to me like the Pac-12 is like light years behind even the Big Ten and where some of their programs could be. So because of the hot spots, LA, et cetera, so on. But, what a sad situation is all I can say. And I just wish we had more clarity from the Big Ten as to why. I mean, you're telling me if 5 of these schools agreed to play, that Fox and ESPN, would I think they would have no problem honoring that percentage of their contract or their obligations. I mean, if you're giving them an inventory of games,
games, yes,
yeah.
Look at those schools, the other sports that are happening right now with altered schedules and contracts.
Yeah.
Mark, my question for you: if there is no winter season, does Ohio State play at Michigan 2 years in a row, like last year, and then this year? Do they? Does everything get pushed or rearranged to where this schedule now becomes next year's and then everything just gets pushed a year? Is it fair if Ohio State doesn't get a home game in between 2 road games to Michigan?
Not fair. I think they need to stay on schedule in regards to honoring the every other format. That's
for the division opponents. Yeah, I think that for the crossover games. I don't know. Well, that creates a ripple effect, though, because you either play 5. So somebody may end up with 6 Big Ten home games if you didn't change the. I think you have to copy this year's schedule and paste it into next year.
Copy paste. Yes, easy enough.
Yeah. Move it along. Just move it 1 year down the line.
Get the spreadsheet out and just create one row and just push everything down.